In this video I'm going to show you how to bind from XAML to C#. We will also improve our code a lot. Let me zoom in. Now let's start by moving our variables to the top. And now we will work on our naming style. When we do not specify any access modifiers like public or private, by default variables have a private modifier, like this. And it's equivalent to writing just this. For private variables, we will use the m prefix, meaning private member, and start the name itself with an uppercase, like this. Now let's rename days using the same prefix, and we will make it a bit more descriptive. So instead of days, we will type m total days and apply it. We can also break variables into separate lines, like this. If you want to add even more description, you can use either comments or summaries. Let's type here the total number of days in the game by default. The game balance relies heavily on this. Cannot be negative. And if you look how is it different from a usual comment, when we try to access our variable, our IntelliSense will show a tooltip with the same summary. That's why we use it. Okay, let's move on. We can collapse it. Let's rename hunger modifier to m hunger modifier, happiness to m happiness. We will not use any abbreviation here, so m, then happiness, bonus, hunger, rename it to m hunger, and finally pet name, rename it to m pet name. And we will also add a new variable for a media player, so private media player, let's call it media player, equals new media player. So media player is a class. We created an instance of this class and we initialized it at once. So variable declaration is here and variable initialization is here. After the variables region, we will add a property that we learned in the previous part. It is mandatory to make it public, so public. Then the type of our property. It should be our newly created class, animal, so public animal. Now let's give it a name, and unlike variables, it will start with an uppercase. So animal selected pet. As you remember, that's what we used here, selected pet. And now, as any property, give it getter and setter. We will bind to this property from our XAML. Let's open our loading region and enter our constructor. At the very beginning, we will initialize our property with a new animal class. So let's type selected pet equals new animal. So we initialized it. I have also added a new mp3 file to the debug folder. Make sure you download it from GitHub or use your own sound file. So at the end of our constructor, we will access our media player class instance, access its open method. Here we will pass the URI source. Let's create new URI class instance, and in its constructor we will pass the path. So we will use string format, and in the string format we will give the following text. First we will give base directory and then the file name, run little chicken.mp3, and then goes the base directory. So let's access app domain, current domain, and base directory. Base directory is the folder from which the exe file was launched. Now let's add an event for our media player called media ended plus equals new event handler. We will create an event later called media ended. After that we will check if setting of type bool, that is music, equals true. IDEST if the music should be played. Then we call the play method of the media player. That's our music, and this is our property, which will be bound to from XAML. But in order to make it workable, we need to set the data context to this. In this case, this means user control select pet, and by setting data context, we say where we have properties to be bound to. In this case, this very CS file is the destination for binding, because our properties are here. After the constructor, we will create a new event, media ended, so private void media ended, which accepts object sender and event args, and we check if setting of type bool music, which is in settings default, is true. Then we position the media player to the start, so we use time span 0. And after that we call the play method of the media player. So this will play our music. After that, let's change our loaded event a bit. So we will decrease requirements. So 5 will become 3, 10 will become 4, 15 will become 5, and 20 will become 6. That's it. We are done with the loading region. Let's move secondary buttons to the bottom. And also let's rename it from secondary to navigation buttons. Now let's add a warning for the erase button. Instead of just executing it, we will ask the user. So message box show our message. Do you want to erase your results and achievements? Title will be attention. And we will allow 2 buttons, so message box button yes and no. We'll give the warning image, so message box image dot warning, and we check if the result of show here equals message box result dot yes. So if the user pressed yes button, we will execute this code block. Now I think I misplaced our changed pet method. Let's move it from here to here. So when we change our pet, we will check which radio button is checked. So if choice puppy is checked, so if it equals true, we then access our property, so selected pet, and we access its type property. So in order to avoid confusion, selected pet is a property inside this class, inside user control select pet, and in its turn animal class has its own properties as well. So first we access the property from this file, and then we access the property from this class. We set the type of selected pet to pet type puppy. Otherwise, so else if choice kitty is checked, we set the pet type to kitty. Else if choice parrot is checked, we set the pet type to parrot. Else if choice hamster is checked, we set the pet type to hamster. And finally, if panda is checked, we set the type to panda. So in our code we will change only one property of this class instance. Let's collapse it, and we need to change the check changed event. We don't need the word effect anymore, so let's remove it. Instead of comma, we will use new line, so +1 hunger. Remove the percent character. Again, instead of comma and white space, use new line, -1 day. Now let's move this button click event to the navigation buttons region, and let's change it a bit. So we start by changing the pet name private variable to be tb name text. We don't need this text in description anymore. Then also we will remove new line and type comma white space instead. After checking all pet choices, we will do as follows. We don't need to add age to our description anymore because we will have separate variables for that. So string age equals empty string, and instead of modifying description, we will add text to age. And here we will create another variable called description age. It will be equal to text block effect text, but we will replace new line with comma white space. Then we will call the stop method of our media player to stop the music, because when we start the game there should be another song. Now we don't need this anymore because we handled it before. Now instead of this, which is user control, we will set not the content of the user control but the content of window. So parent as window, and its content will be new user control, pet name, total days, happiness bonus, hunger modifier, pet description, and we will also need to pass age and description age. Let's quickly add those two parameters. So string age and string description age. Now let's modify our restart button click. Along with restarting the game, we will also stop the music from playing. In the restart game method, we change this to parent as window. In the main menu, we again stop the media player and set the content of parent. So parent as window. Now let's check whether binding to C# works. We will try switching different pet types. And if everything works, changing it will cause these properties to automatically fill with different values according to the pet type. Here you can hear the new song, and you can already see that binding works. So puppy, kitty, parrot, hamster, good. And our age should work as well. So 6 months, 12 months, 6 months, 1 month. Good. In the next part, we are going to visually improve our game screen a lot. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to see more tutorials.